Hey there, gamers. Welcome back to Cryptic Gaming. I hope you guys have been having a wonderful week. So I figure we'll do a little live play here, do some grinding. Figure I'm going to go hit the Mega Fort Wolven Hall a little bit. Got to get some more guild marks up before the reset on Tuesday. That way, if something interesting comes in, we can buy plenty of it, or potentially some blueprints would be great. I think we're also going to do some helm today as well. And of course, if you got questions about anything in the game, definitely make sure that you ask them so we can address that. I'm going to get our chat up here so I can monitor a little better with the handheld. Give me just a second here. But I tell you what, I for one am definitely looking forward to finally getting some new content. It's been one of those things where we just kind of waiting to see when they're going to bring something out. I know a lot of people have been asking about the hand-to-hand combat. When is that coming? From what my understanding is, at least what they've been mentioning in the deck and other little updates here, we're not going to see that anytime soon. There's not a definite date. It's not canceled. My understanding is it's just been postponed. And yeah, it's kind of something that we see in this game quite a bit for those who've been playing since last year. You get expecting a lot of new content and stuff like that, but then there'll be a hiccup in the system and they'll decide to pull back and work on some of the quality items, some of the stuff that they've released, and it's not quite right. And I can definitely understand wanting to make sure that stuff is correct. Okay, I am on my way to our chat now. All right. Get me some water there. Here we go. So I am currently in Tier 2, I believe. And what I'm going to be doing, like I said, is just focusing on Wolven Hall. And then, of course, we're going to bounce out and do some grinding on our helm stuff. If we see a Lepest or something like that come up, we'll probably go over there and run that too, because I'm trying to get that Plague Dust. I think I'm currently at, let's see where we're at. I like to have about 4,500 to 5,000 going into a new week. And we're currently sitting at 4,000. So about 3 more hits, probably 4. How's it going there, Alistair? Yeah, it looks like we're good on ammunition there. Now I've switched over into my schooner to be able to put out more damage on this fort. Something I've been noticing a lot is you get a lot of people that just sit. A lot of them actually, they'll come over and they'll just sit over here at the oubliette. And they'll actually let their ship get destroyed and sit. And it'll be down to like 4 or 5 guys grinding it. Not quite sure why people are doing it. Well, I have a pretty good idea. They just don't waste their cannonballs. But, you know, you got a couple options on it. Obviously, if you're needing the material, switch it to a ship with more DPS like I've done. And hopefully we get a little better mix of folks here. I had some issues with it early this morning, man. It was really frustrating. Make sure you get your shots over there. And I apologize for the popping. It's very annoying. That's unfortunately, you know, there's no direct way to stream YouTube with your Xbox, and unless you go and hook capture cards and all that up. And I've done that in the past, but it's just nice to stream flawlessly over with a PlayStation. But man, that crackle in this game is just driving me nuts. It only does it with the surround sound that the PlayStation supports. I need to get in there and really look and see how to change those options. I guess it's in the unit itself, because I didn't see anything in the game on where to change it. It's always a brigantine pinching you off, man. Get out the way, dude. You can't steer. Don't get in it. Yeah. Yeah, so grinding this out, this is going to give you plenty of that deep iron and stuff that we're going to need for that new ship. The torp frigate. Yeah, I think the schooner, at least the way I've got it built out, does more damage than my Patty. And but as far as the frigate, man, the problem is, other than them shooting at Acti, all these large frigates, when the actual fort starts to fire off and you have to take it out, what I've been dealing with here lately is they all disappear. And most of them, from what I've seen, actually just go to the oubliette, sit and wait and save their cannonballs. They don't actually engage on the fort much. I'm not sure why, like I said, I'm not sure why some of the players are doing that here lately, but you know, that you get that in any game, especially once it goes free. You get a lot of the freeloaders that like to sit there and let other people do their farming for them. Yeah, it's nothing new, but the main thing is, I think eventually, at least the talks are, if you're not in zone between stages, they're going to add an actual stage to this thing. I think that they won't get that final payout. So, and that's what they need to do. Is if they're not in zone at that final stage, they shouldn't get the stuff. So that's rumored down the pipe. You know, I haven't actually seen it happen yet. But oh, so they're doing that stuff when you're in there too. Okay, so it's not just the groups I get stuck with. I've actually tried to turn it across playoffs, see if it makes a difference, but I think it's just kind of across the board folks are doing it. They're probably just burn out on the grind, I guess. But well, if we can get through the big boys, there we go. Yeah, the level 9 frigates. Yeah, I definitely don't miss seeing those. You see a lot of that actually in Tier 2 on events. You'll see a bunch of 9s showing up here lately. I guess more people are hoping the friends get into Tier 2, hoping that they'll build up, but they're not doing it the way a lot of folks did it in the past to actually grind for it. They're just kind of sitting back and picking off a few shots here and there off some of the bosses or whatever, little elites and stuff. It'll catch them. They'll catch up to them. If I get the ship to stop bobbing the wrong way, there we go. Some shots in on that over there. I think we've actually lost the weak spot over there. Yep. Yeah, I had to start doing that myself. Once it starts crowding up too much, just pour it over. Yeah, I always enjoyed bringing the frigate over here. It was a lot of fun, but it's gotten to where you got to use something with a heavy DPS on this fort. Yeah, if you can get into any of those events or even the bosses and just run it solo, you can usually knock them out really quick, and you can get a lot of grinding out of the way, but it never fails anymore. You're going to end up with the level 9s. I do notice that there's less people like that playing early in the mornings, around 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm almost positive it's because since this has hit the free boards over there at the PS5 and even some of the Xbox stuff, if you get those premium passes, I think a lot of kids are starting to come in, and you can kind of tell when they come in, they're the type to kind of jump in and don't really, engage in the battle, just sit back and let you do it for them. They end up with really low level ships and somehow are in level 2. I hide behind them, let them take the hit of that. There we go. But like I said, it eventually catches up to the players. I think once the seasonal journey starts in, you're going to see a lot of separation in. Man, I am getting scorched by something. Nothing shooting, but it's definitely knocked the crap out of me. Turn this thing around here. Yeah, it's kind of one of those double-edged sword things, man. It's always nice to see the new gamers coming in, but it just sucks when it ends up drawing into class who just kind of, I don't know, they're probably burnt out on content, mostly because they've gotten most of what they need, but they have to actually level their player up a little bit before they can get some of these other items. But they'll have just enough stuff to put on their ship, but not actually level the ship up. It'll catch them in the end, especially when new world tiers come out. I imagine World Tier 2 comes Season 3. It's going to be one of those things where if you're not of a certain level, you're probably not going to be able to really compete. I wouldn't be surprised to see if Faction Wars, since it's tied into the storyline, it's probably going to restrict a lot of people from doing anything if they haven't played through the main game. But Also, I mean, they're kind of talking like it's not going to be required, so there will be some storyline aspect to it, but you could actually leave the faction you'll be in and I guess become factionless later on as well. Have to wait and see what they got in mind, but hopefully they wrap our guild system where we can play with our own people. But man, that would really require them to create a private server almost, because we'll fill a couple servers up when we get everybody online. But it's definitely kind of slowed down some of the need to be in large groups, since you can actually upgrade your ships and stuff. You get all the ascensions and all, and I imagine with the armor ascension coming in, new damage types for our weapons and stuff, we'll see a lot of things change in that retrospect. There's talks of somehow making World Tier 2 a little harder. I personally think just leave it where it's at and have World Tier 3, that when you go in there, it's automatically player versus environment, and just be done with it. And that would be the challenge that these people are needing. Give them something they can play. It's essentially a Tier 2 just with PvP. So I don't know. I don't know that they'll ever do that, but it would be cool if they did. Yeah, I mean they could kind of build on it from there, but I'm just kind of curious as to why some of the stuff that's glitched out a little bit in Tier 2, you don't really have the issues here in Tier 1. If it's just simply an adjustment of some difficulty, it doesn't look like they would be having all these issues over there. But they did get quite a bit of it fixed. I was glad to see that I can actually set my ships on my helm and just pick it up when I'm not online. That's great to have that working again. Been using that pretty good. Just getting up on the not really rare helm materials, but orc mechanisms, the old twine, stuff like that. Things I don't feel like going out and grinding out with those old ship convoys we used to have to do back in the day. And 7 deep iron will take it. Now, I've been putting these weapons ascension caches back. I don't know that they'll get updated between seasons or not, but there's really nothing in it that I need. So I figure I'll set these back, and hopefully, as new weapons enter the game, they'll fill those boxes up with them. Now, that's assuming, obviously, that they don't end up changing like what kind of level it is or something like that. But that's the hopes anyway. Ammo over here. Might go hit a fort next. What do we have here? We're probably okay on ammo. Yeah, but definitely looking forward to that armor ascension. One thing I'm going to do is Buccaneer Oath. Hopefully I can find something that's similar to the severe repair that we have on that Ouroboros armor to add that Buccaneer's Oath. That would be perfect. I mean, you wouldn't even have to do anything else to it. That would just make that armor just perfect. But if they even have something with an AOE that can expand on there, would be cool too. But the rewards out of the faction. So there's basically, this first pass looks to me like, from what I can tell, what I've heard, it sounds like a lot of repeats on both sides, DMC and Campaigning Royale. Whichever side wins, you get. They need to fix that, by the way. Anytime you get close to that fire pit, it just kind of sucks you in. It's like the walkway over there on the block. But my understanding is the pass that you'll see will be similar to what we saw up here. But instead of spending like heartfelt wishes, you're spending war assets, and it progresses you through the past. But everything that I saw on it was stuff we already have, repeats. Now we're gonna have like some deep iron and things like that as well. We'll have, you know, masterwork kits, a lot of the basic stuff. Now there's supposed to be some cosmetics that you can only earn in that as well. But then of course there's a cosmetic at the end of the faction war for whichever side, DMC or French. Whoever wins it, the overall, they'll get a specialty thing on there. But from what I've seen, most everything, at least in the past, other than there's going to be some special furnitures just for, you know, the French side or the DMC side. But honestly, from what I've heard, you know, I don't know what exactly those furnitures are going to boost. You know, obviously they changed some things. I've heard mixed reviews on some of them. Some of them said, you know, if you use certain types of weapons, you're going to be happy with it. If you use other types, you know, then it's really not really going to be something there. It's going to be like kind of specific. So my guess is French will probably be more torpedo, because that's what we see with the Hubach twins, and DMC will probably be something more with your auxiliary mortar or maybe bombards or something like that, because we see a lot of that with the snows. But yeah, I don't really know. It's just rumor that I've been hearing. Which of course, any piece of furniture that you can then add to your ship. I would love to see a 7th furniture slot on these large ships. The fact we can only do 6 is, you know, I had a fully upgraded ship. I mean, they're kind of expensive to upgrade, and we've not been able to get anything like really major out of that. So hopefully they'll do something with that for us. But I imagine most of our, you know, additions to DPS and all that's going to come from running the seasonal journeys, just running those missions. Alrighty, let's see what we got in the helm here. Paramount and Paramount again. Go ahead and grab both of these. Oh, I wouldn't expect to see a ship of the line until year 3 at the soonest. You know, it just kind of depends on what they want to do. I imagine, you know, and like I said, I want to be positive about it, but I imagine what we want to see is we'll eventually get to where all the releases that they're talking about, the officer system and the hand-to-hand and all that kind of stuff, is going to enter the game. As to how seamless it'll be, like if we could pull our weapons out and just take off fighting another pirate right here in this area, I would be highly surprised. I think it'll be more like your setup that you have with the, see if we can find it here. You know, Death Tides, you'll have certain areas you can go to. You might have certain mission sets that you go and run it and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be able to build your pirate captain up to it. But you know, I will be really surprised, at least at first, if we're able to actually board other people's ships, like other players. I'd be shocked to actually see that. And the only reason I say that is, I mean, it was supposed to be coming here season 3. My understanding coming in to year 2 was that they had the year's content ready to go. We actually seen them extend season 4 of year 1 well into this year, and the reasoning for that was they were polishing up a few things and everything would release on time. And as soon as Faction Wars come out, I started hearing some things a little static about it, that it wasn't going to be released or it wasn't quite right, and that people were hoping they wouldn't release it in its current state, and sure enough they ended up pulling back on that, which has put all the other things on hold as well. Now, will we see an officer system in here? Yeah, it's hard to say. My understanding is part of opening the officers, you would have locations that would have different officers that you could choose from, and you would have a mission set, then you would have to fight somebody to free them, like hand-to-hand fights. Now, they may change that to where we rescue them from ships and still bring it into the game. I don't know. But it doesn't sound like a lot of that's getting put in. It sounds like we're getting the armor ascension instead. Now, hopefully that releases at the beginning of season 3. We're going to be getting those, add an option to walk on the deck of your ship. Well, the only problem with that, I mean, hopefully long term they can do that, but we've got forts really that still have issues, you know. I mean, I don't really want to see them add new content. Like I could go walk on the deck of my ship if walking on the deck of my ship's the only thing I can do and everything else is broken, we're waiting on a lot of new content. Hopefully they focus on bringing new content. I mean, you're going to get bored just walking on the deck of your ship. I would anyway, but if they have those things, you can use different views to put you on ship level and all, behind the captain or as the eyes of the captain in the game now. And eventually they might have like free roam of the ship, but I don't know how they would really actually do that. They would be more like if you had your pirate's lair, I guess. Maybe they could introduce pirate's lair, and you could maybe work from your ship post or something. I don't know. They definitely would have to add some new stuff to it, but eventually maybe they can take and add some of that stuff. But yeah, I think that's why, at least is what it sounded like with the hand-to-hand, why they was like, yeah, let's just hold off for now, because there was so many aspects, which is really surprising, because when we first came in here to year 2, everything to me worked seamlessly. I think we ended up with World Tier 2, it seemed like it was pretty quick. It seemed like it was right off the bat, if I'm not mistaken. I don't even remember what the mid-season update was of Season 1 for Year 2, if anybody remembers. But we got pretty much everything right off the bat, and was able to work on armor ascensions, ships, getting those up to the 7th upgrade, and all that kind of stuff, which was kind of cool. But it just seems to me like we're kind of, still waiting on some things to catch up, and the other shoe to drop when it comes to what's next is basically what I'm looking at. They were supposed to come out with this roadmap, and that's one of the things that I was looking forward to, is coming up with, seeing what's coming. And then it gives you something where you can kind of plan. You can kind of tell with what they're coming out with, what you need to be grinding and stuff like that. But with, certain, sounds like there's 26 materials that are going to be removed from the game. And I had a little bit of a list of some of that stuff, but it's still like it's one of those things where I wouldn't go and just delete them all, because they have a way of changing things between what you see in like test phases and stuff, and then when it actually releases to the game. And that's one of the things that, we can look at some content, see what they're bringing, but I would be very cautious about telling you to go and sell a bunch of stuff for something, because you might need it in the meantime to get some buyouts or something like that. Okay, I'm actually headed over here to Harriman. I just transported up here to get that fast travel, but well, it's one of these things where they can, this game really, it has a lot of potential. It really does. There's nothing on the market like it. It wouldn't take much as far as get this game dialed in to where it would actually grow. And the people that are playing now, they would actually be ahead. You can't keep holding back the people that have been here a year. This is where they fail in some of the end game in the past. The end game, you should just be getting your helmet and getting pieces 8, and then after that, you could get some blueprints and weapons, but there's really nothing new coming into the game for pieces of 8 that I've seen. Maybe a cosmetic on occasion, or they might drop a new blueprint over there for an old weapon or something that didn't have a blueprint in the past. So pieces of 8 are really kind of outmodded to really anything major, unless you're upgrading ships or running helm materials, as far as making wood or whatever in the helm. You can use that. Silver seems to still be something that's pretty popular, high demand in the game. So I imagine we're going to see them continue to kind of chip away at the silver, how you're able to produce it and get how much you can get and where and all that. Now, it's a lot better than it was last year, because it used to be a pain trying to get silver in this game. Your best payouts was the privateers, and they would come up and they would pay somewhere around 900 to 1,000. That was actually considered a really good payout. And even now, you don't get a lot of high-end things, but used to you got 5 or 10 silver from a ship. Now you'll get 200 or 300, so it's not too bad. They've come a long way with it. You can still run this helm stuff, and this is where I get my silver production. And right now, like I said, I'm sitting pretty good on silver. I'm not feeling any strain on it, but they got like 137 million now. Been doing some more rolling, but the helm materials I'm setting back, I've got about 50 million's worth to sit back, as far as just continue to make gold skull products. That way, if anything happens in the game, And like I said, I hope we don't ever see another reset. We've seen 3 of them in this game, and hopefully we don't see another one. But if we do, it's just always smart to make sure that you grind ahead of time to keep your stuff up. I hear a lot of times people like, well, if they reset, take my currency out, I'll just be done. And, for a lot of people, I can definitely understand that. A lot of people actually have quite a bit of actual cash in the game. It was like $100 for the initial relief. Wolvenhall, yeah, a lot of stuff you can sell from over there, those chests and stuff. And really, Wolvenhall is almost a one-stop shop. If it paid out helm materials like Megafort Houston, I would probably just hit it and probably wouldn't even bother plundering the fort. So hopefully that's something we'll see them add over there, some helm materials, because it would be nice to have a one-stop shop. But I went over there today and was doing Wolvenhall. I was started at like 700 guild marks. We're 4,300 now, I think, something like that, and change. But it just takes time. I like to have around 4,500 to 5,000 going into the next week, and I can always grind more if I need to. But I'm not worried about building up a lot of guild marks because you can't transfer them between seasons. They didn't transfer from season 1 to season 2. They're not supposed to transfer from season 2 to season 3. So you're going to end up having to spend them on other stuff pretty quick. It sounds like there may or may not be a way to transfer that to silver. I thought the silver boxes was how they were originally going to do that at the end of the season, and then they put a limit on it. So I don't know if that means for that week they'll just remove the limit on it, or if they're going to have a like they did back in season. I think it was the end of season 3, first part of season 4. We seen where we could take in our sovereigns and we could trade those in for Kufra bars, and then we was able to trade our Kufra bars back over for sovereigns later. So, I imagine we're going to see something of that nature. And you can still trade these guild marks in for sovereigns and go buy stuff from Unita if you want to. But honestly, short of getting some weapons caches and stuff, there's just really not much over there that I need from her. I can just, effectively. Yeah, so that's what they've talked about in the deck is, using your guild marks, converting it to silver at the end of the season. And but keep in mind, we were supposed to have seen that happen a couple weeks ago, and it's not happened yet. When they come out with the actual silver boxes, where you buy the boxes with the guild marks, was originally what they were supposed to be looking at doing, and then now they're put a limit on it. So I don't know if they're going to open those boxes back up or just have a table that you go to and convert them. That conversion rate, I'm sure, is going to be like, kind of lame, but we'll see. Maybe it won't be too bad. But guild marks, honestly, are a heck of a lot easier to grind out than some of those high-paying silver things. I mean, you're getting, 300 over there at Wolvenhall every time you run it. Plus silver. I mean, you get a ton of silver over there. But yeah, I agree. There's some things. Hopefully, we'll see them start trying to change around in the game a little bit. There's some room for improvement on some things, but they've done a pretty good job of it. I mean, they've done a better job than I could. There's no way I'd have got it to a point where it was anything more than an idea. So, pretty good game. I like it in comparison to some others. I'm not real big on the Death Tides. To me, it's okay, but it feels more arena play to me. And if I'm going to be playing arena naval games, I play World of Warship Legends. I've been playing it for 4 or 5 years now, something like that. There's always new ships to grind and new commanders to build up, and to focus on getting those ranked up and all that kind of stuff. And so I play a lot of it. It's fixing to go to cross-platform where the consoles and PC will be able to play together. So that's going to be pretty awesome when that happens. So I imagine that's going to end up being pretty popular within the gaming communities and stuff. So, but it gives me something to do while I wait on this thing to release some new content. So I've got a level 8 over here. Probably join up on this plunder maybe. I don't know. Black Flag modded. Yeah, see, I'm not even on a PC. I've heard they do a lot of cool mods and stuff on those games, from what I've heard. And they're supposed to be, my understanding is they're doing something with Black Flag, I guess remastering it or something. They're supposed to be adding some concepts to it, and there's talk that the way that that's going to end is going to lead into this game here, so they can kind of connect it into it. I don't know. That's just what the rumors are that I've heard. And once the contract is up for the Singapore division at year 3 for content, they're going to move that part of the contract over somewhere else, but they'll continue to maintain the servers, I guess. Yeah, full remake. So yeah, so that may be something why we're seeing them kind of moving some things back here. They're going to try some stuff with that. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, I guess. But I think it definitely doesn't sound like they're done with the game. It's nice that they're keeping some things up, but there are a few things I get alarmed about, like when watching the deck. Back in the day when they would play this thing, they had 3 or 4 people, and they would all be playing the game together, doing something and all. Now we've got just one guy that plays it while they talk, and it's okay, but it makes me wonder, so are they playing their own game? Because we end up with some issues that don't even get mentioned in like the notes and stuff. I don't know how long this helm issue where we would set our ships out here, I have no idea how long that thing had been broke. I mean, a long time, I'm sure, but just happened to start noticing it. I don't think that's actually coming in, and some of you guys that watch started mentioning it. But nice that the West added about. I don't even recall what part of the ocean that took place, Nassau and all, in comparison to where the Indian Ocean is. I'm not sure. I know some of the early versions of this game that I played over at the Game Expo. You had a northern map, and it was British and Spanish. You had Spanish man of wars. It had a lot of different types of ships. It wasn't quite like we have now. You can come in and you can pick certain ship holds, but you could take like a larger ship, such as, we'll just take the frigate for example, and you could set it up where it had less gun ports and more storage space if you wanted a treasure ship, but you could set it up with more gun ports. And when you had long cannons, they shot from every port, not just the top deck. I hope they get rid of this top deck style thing. Why a long gun is a top deck only is beyond me. I do not understand that, and never will understand that. I can understand things like the bombard, maybe not being able to shoot out the side of a ship hold, but when it comes to things like the torpedoes and the long guns, it looks to me like that should be an all-deck weapon. Yeah, so maybe they could do something like that. Be kind of interesting. I was glad to see how they took the I forget exactly what it's called in Black Flag, but you go in the ship and you can look at all the trade routes and run trade routes and stuff. And they've similarly added that into this game, so it's kind of cool. Man, I hope so. We've had double deck ships since year 1, and it's always been kind of hit and miss on love that they show those things. They did give the Snow another gun port here recently, which for those of you who like Snows and didn't know that, they gave it a new gun port on top deck, so you could actually get an extra shot off of it. So if that's something you've been waiting for and just didn't have enough firepower, you might check it back out. I've used frigates with Bombard 5s and stuff, and they're pretty nice, but I figure if I'm just going to use top deck only, I'm going to use those Rama Legacies. They're kind of hard to beat. Now, you have the Haka, which if someone crosses in front of you, it'll actually go under their ship and hit them, so that's kind of nice too, but I usually try to aim around people. Let's see here. I think I've got everything collected here. Okay, we got to pick up another contract. Do this mess out. And honestly, I end up getting, we went and ran that. It took 5 minutes to get 450 of these. I actually make more when it comes to the helm. Unless I have an Houston, I usually end up making more in the helm by just running some basic contracts. I'll show you all what I'm talking about here. So when I pick up order registries, you end up making a lot more than that just farming out those things. Unless you've got an Houston, you have some that pay 900 to 1,000. They're usually worth running. But as far as the ship deals, since they've moved them around, I mean, if you just want to spend your time fast traveling for 4,500, you can do that. But usually I'll load up those contracts and then I'll come run that stuff. Let's see, this one is Picasso and then Houston. Well, they originally said that the frigate would be a frontline DPS coming into year 2. Then they switched it to a tank. They said the Corvette would be a fast-moving DPS-style ship that would specialize in ramming. That was the original thing coming into year 2. But since then, we've now seen them in the last deck. They kind of backstepped on that. And they said they're not really sure what the role of it will be. They showed some clip art that can change. It's just a basic hull. There's nothing major to it. You can't really garner any information from it. But there's not really any definitive stuff. So, I mean, if you like ramming ships, that's cool that they've got another ramming ship. Some of us prefer, elemental DPS or certain aspects like that on top of those types of abilities. So be curious to see what they get. But yeah, it was a little disappointing for me because I was really looking for the frigate because that's always been a what they call a gunship in the Navy, the old navies and stuff, man. And we come out here and they end up cutting man, I thought it was 10. I've heard it's as many as 16 gun ports. And the early frigate actually had 3 decks back in the day, like I say, but that's a whole different version of what the game used to be. But you can see, if you go look at the course frigates, you're missing about 8 gun ports on each side of that blind spot that the computer's not missing. So that stuff is removed to give a blind spot in there. Then they took the outburst perk. If you're not sure what the outburst perk would have looked like, that's whenever you're fighting like the Hubok twins and they fire every weapon they have and it shoots all the long guns off the top deck and then, from the ship and everything kind of radiates from a circle. They took that off of the ship as well. And, I was a little bummed out about it, but it's still not a bad ship. It's just not what we were hoping for. So when it comes to the Corvette, man, I mean, I wish I could tell you, but it almost sounds like they're kind of wanting to hear from the community I don't know who gives them these ideas about some of the stuff because some of the ideas they've done, whatever community they're listening to, they've given some really bad ideas. Whoever it was that mentioned to them to make that thing or convinced them to turn that frigate into a tank is insane. Yeah, we got a 13 gun broadside off of that frigate, which is insane. But it used to have more than that. So, like I say, it just depends. But the fact that they kind of backpedaled a little bit on what the Corvette was going to be, because in the past it's always been a fast-moving rammer with DPS, is what's been stated that it would be, and then suddenly it's something totally different. Did we really just finish that off that quick? No, so. It never started to plunder. There we go. Hopefully this don't air out on us. That's odd. It usually starts to just come around the front. Hopefully it don't. Doesn't mean it's going to mess up. Well, they could really, if they went back to some of the old school stuff of what was in some of the early, they'd go to Game Hub and they'd put this stuff up for people to test it and all that kind of stuff. They'd go back to where, say, a large ship like a galleon, it could be turned into a treasure ship where you're moving a lot of cargo and then you have people protect it, or you could turn it into a warship, more like a man of war type of a gun, or a ship type theme. And you can use blueprints attached to different holes and change things in some of those early versions of playing this game. And that could potentially give you room where you could built some pretty awesome things. You have at least have some options. But you can get 2 or 3 ships out of one ship type. Would be cool. And you can kind of do that with furniture, but there's really only so much you can do with some of these ships that they have. The Brigantine, since they've made it where it actually amplifies flooding, that's new to it this year. Used to, it didn't do anything for your flooding weapons. It would just, add that deluge or whatever you would hit them with the hook. But now it actually boosts your flooding weapons, so that's been kind of nice for people. But to me, it's just not as effective. Yeah, and you can switch to hull types and stuff like that. So, I think they need to go back to that, personally. I've not heard of anything like that being tested, though. So we'll see. I know back in the day they had what was it called? It was kind of like a journey for your ship, their ship types, and you could open up specific things for ship types and all, but it sounds like now it's just a seasonal journey. Now, they may have something that's ship specific. They only gave us a screenshot of that. Now, I've heard that there's a lot of stuff when it comes to bolstering the hull, and then on top of that, it'll be for like your medium ships and things like that. It'll have its own little selection to add some more to it, or different types of, it'd be an elemental damage increase of say 3%, but you may end up having a situation where you can then take and boost your fire damage, and that'll affect like your bombards and everything else that have fire. So you would obviously want to get all your elemental types and then focus on the element type of boost. There would be fire or explosion. So I think flooding is actually considered that's considered a physical damage on this game. It seems like the Brigantine, if I remember right, they use the flintlocks whenever you do your crew attack, and that seems to be ships without specialty type of elemental damage. They usually use that usually flintlocks and all that kind of stuff, long guns. So same thing with like a frigate. Whenever you come around, it starts to shoot a lot of the guns. I think this one, if I'm not mistaken, uses fire bottles. We'll have to check and see if we can get a crew attack or not without blowing them up in one shot. Yeah, fire bombs. And we know that the DPS or the ship type is explosive, so elemental damage. But for me, I'm more excited about seeing the. Don't get me wrong, Faction Wars is definitely intriguing, and they're going to be building upon it. That's going to be like the foundation of a lot of the end game. So it's going to be, we'll see it change quite a bit, I'm sure, over the seasons as it progresses by new items and things, new ideas. Yeah, so those were some ship types that they had in the original plays that you could do. And it was made up where when you went into a PvP scenario, you had different type scenarios. You had a player versus environment scenario, kind of like this, except it seemed like it was more of the northern section. We're looking at, that's been 13 years ago or so probably. And since seen that was over in Portland, Oregon. And it was a lot of fun playing it. I was really into it, but it was a totally different game than what we see. But if they'll bring some of those aspects in, where we could have our own guild, and then we could donate our materials to our guild leader to build our own turrets and things like that, and that to me would be pretty awesome to see in the game. But I don't know how that'll work. They've kind of pitched some of this game into this area where it'd be kind of hard expanded in some of those ways. But on the same note, you're looking at some pretty big adjustments if you're looking at a hand-to-hand combat system coming in, and of course adding those other aspects. But if you look at what they ended up doing, they released the PvP where we could just adjust a flag, and nobody played it. It was fairly popular to begin with, and you still get a few people that will travel around with it, and that's fine. But to me, it just didn't quite have any really. There's no reason for me to run it, I guess, to grind toward it and stuff. It was pretty base what you can do with ships. This is where in my opinion, the seasonal journey is going to expand some things in the game, especially for PvP world. Is there's just not been a whole lot of stuff for those guys who want that extra grind for PvP, and everyone comes in and you can really roll out those weapons pretty quick if you know, do like some folks do, and just hang out around events and just kind of get paid for not really doing much of anything. You can roll through build a ship pretty quick in it. But what's going to help you stand apart is grinding out those seasonal journeys, because then your weapons and your ships and all that different type of stuff is going to be able to be boosted for an entire season. Now, I think it's great that it's going to reset every season. I fully expect for every one person who likes the idea of it resetting every season, you're going to have probably 100 more that hates that, because, you know, who wants to continue to grind the same materials out, I guess. But as long as they keep the content fresh is my main thing. No one wants to farm out the Hubok twins 100 times. I get tired of hearing them sing. That's the main thing. I usually turn my volume off so I don't have to hear them. That's just me. Surely I'm not the only one who gets tired of that opera sound. But we need fresh content, not just reskins. You know, I kind of looked at some of the stuff with the foundation of what they're making for Faction Wars. I mean, it looks very intriguing as far as like to start off with, as long as they continue to build on it and do, you know, whatever it is they're going to do. They're talking about a third option. Now, does that mean it's going to be an actual third option, or are you going to have the option to create your own guild and you can run against the Campaign Royale and the French? That would be cool, and you're at war with everybody. That would be awesome if we could do that. I would love to see that. But we'll just have to wait and see what they end up doing. Yeah, how much they run away, that's the next big thing with those guys. You try to farm them out, then you can't, because they're running the whole time. Torpedoes do a pretty good job of catching them, but it can be really frustrating. Okay, I think Oosteners our next one here. But I still enjoy getting on here and sinking ships. I mean, it's a lot of fun. You know, certain aspects, obviously, yeah, it's gotten where, especially coming to Tier 1, it makes the grind quicker. It's not that it's harder in Tier 2. It's just, you know, you can get this stuff done faster, jump back into Tier 2 and start hitting that Megafort again. Because you got an hour between contracts, typically, for them things to come out. Now, what I've noticed is when it's not an actual hour, it seems to me like it's whatever time the new hour rotates now, because like it's 12:40 my time right now. At 1 o'clock my time, it seems like the contract should be available. It used to be an actual hour cooldown, so it seems like it rotates on the hour. So depending on how much time's there, you can usually run these things out pretty quick, especially if you get ones that have a lot of repeats on locations. All right, we'll take these guys out first, because I cannot stand dealing with them. They always want to come up and breathe fire down your back, like that big bull on the old Looney Tunes cartoons. Yes, we hit a ship. We did hit a ship. Oh my goodness, they're killing me with these cutscenes and stuff. There we go. And I would love to see them remove some of the cutscenes in the game. I think it would actually make this thing run a little smoother. Like when you come in to do a plunder and it's got to do that cutscene, and then your plunders end up failing, or you end up getting sunk, things like that. Take the 16 out here. Jeez. Start dealing with these. There he went. All right. The sharpshooters are always the worst, I think. And there's another one. Yeah, that could be cool, even if it's an option. I like how they added where we actually have the options to make these little flares that come up to show our bounty. You can make them larger or smaller. That's always kind of nice too, because some people see better than others. Some people are blind as a bat, like me. Well, except I don't have the sonar location or the echoes and all that kind of stuff. I'm just blind. I think that's got all that. Like I say, over here you do get helm materials from each stage too, which to me is always great. Oh yeah, well I actually enjoy it when they send large fleets of ships in, and you got to fight your way through them. I mean, back in the day, that was always kind of a tickles your age. I like when they start. Yeah, I don't know if it's a glitch or what. But they'll start like just piling ships on you, huge sets of convoys coming in on you. As long as you're not like a bunch of level 30s or something like that, you know. But 17s aren't too bad either, as long as it's not like 8 level 17 freaking sharpshooters. That's always kind of, you know, rough on you. Man, that would be awesome if they could get it to that where you got 20 versus 20. And we may see some new PvP elements come into Death Tides where it'll be faction-specific stuff. If you're part of that, you can get into those bigger wars. That would be kind of cool. I could see that actually helping draw people over to Death Tides a little more. As long as it's, you know, I'm not going to say it's not fun in Death Tides, but it's the same weapon types that's being used. And you know, as soon as the new Sloop of War comes out, instead of a Garuda, it's going to be Sloop of War all day long, set up with poison. I mean, that's just the thing with PvP. Poison's king, man. But man, after tooling around in a frigate for since the beginning of season 2, I got to tell you, man, being back in a medium hull, these things turn on a dime compared to that bad boy, for sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's either going to be a really nice ship or they're going to nerf it down so bad that it's kind of pointless. I don't understand why they brought a poison ship in that's going to boost poison damage after they just spent the better part of a month and a half. Well, no more than that. See, season 1, you know, we'll call it 3 months. It's probably closer to 4, where they've been nerfing poison like crazy. Oh, I bet. Yeah, brigantine being a dragster. Yep, we gotta take care of this other wall here. I'll take care of this dude while we're at it. I hit that on the back side. I gotta aim just a little closer. Let's see. And we might hit a weak spot there. It's kind of hard to see. I gotta get where I can see right that fog. A little more straight in here. The trick is you want it to hit the red wall just anywhere within the red. Come on here. There we go. There we go. There it hit for 279,000 that time. If you can hit it just right, it's not bad. Like I said, man, it takes a little bit to get used to running these ships again after you've been running the others. Ooh, I think we're going to run out of room here. Just going to sit there. Yeah, so how if you stay outside of the zone for too long in a normal plunder like this, I think they need to add that over to the Wolven Hall. That'll help discourage some of that stuff where people go sit on the island. Now, that doesn't discourage them from coming into zone and just sitting there waiting for you, but them getting shot at, they're going to tend to move around a little bit more, maybe. Yeah, after playing Black Flag back, man, that's been years ago now. I wish that we could get some legendary ships, kind of how they had over there that come in. Now I know we got some that they consider legendary, like the Roadman Goat and stuff like that. That's just kind of it's all right. It would be cool if they had specialty ships that we could capture, and if you could capture the ship, we'd want to board it and all, then you could actually add it to your inventory. That'd be kind of cool to see that. Even if it's a ships of the same type, but there's a lot of enemy ships that have like a hull of the sandbot, but the sails of a brigantine. You know, a lot of mixed match stuff that's out there in this game that would be cool if we could board and take over that ship. You had the Black Pearl. Yeah. All this stuff over. Then we're going to pop back over here and pick up some cannonballs and a couple of repair kits, and I think we're going to jump back into tier 2 unless we got more forts we can run. We're sitting on our inventory here. No, I don't really need any of that. Get there. I wish they'd stop popping that R2 tab over there. That one of the things that aggravates me the most is you can't see what you're doing because every time you click it, it pops open on you. Yeah, 153. Yeah, and every season they could have something like that, and maybe you come in, you fight it as a team, everybody in the team gets it or something, but they could add a solo thing. The only problem with that is for every person that earns it, there's going to be 100 more talk about how they don't have the time to play the game and things like that. And that's, true for the most part. A lot of people that have, families, they work a lot of hours and stuff like that. But, it's like, to me, that's like, complaining that a millionaire or a billionaire can go buy a new car every week and you can't, I mean, it's just some people have a different life set, and there could be something there in the game for everybody. So I hope to see them start adding things to the game for those that have been here for all of last year and even into this year. I actually stopped playing about mid-season to season 3 after I had my surgery, and came back in year 2 specifically for the frigate. But like I say, some things have changed in the game, but it's not enough to make me bummed out. I like a lot of the prospect of some stuff that's coming, but okay, I did not see any new contracts, so I guess we're going to take and look like there's a place to switch over to tier 2 over here. Looks like about 5 minutes left on my clock, and we'll try it again. In the meantime, we'll go over and hit tier 2 Wolven Hall. I've been saving up the deep iron plate, and all that kind of stuff, and buying it where I can. Next week, starting Tuesday morning for me, I will be focusing on Blighted Bastion. All the furnitures and stuff that drop from Lepest. Not saying he's going to drop it every time, but the stuff that he drops, we're going to be able to get that plague dust from. And you typically can get the plague dust from the chest anyway he drops. I'm just hoping he's put on a repeat pattern for us so we can just really farm them out. Because like right now, if we go to our journal, I think we probably got Lee up here. Let's see. Yeah. And she pops pretty regular, so hopefully we'll see the same thing with the pest. From what I'm hearing from some of the testers, the deep iron's going to be required for this medium ship coming out here in season 3. So, and then of course, I imagine the Corvette you're going to need it for that. They didn't go through all the time to make Wolfenhall if it's just going to be for one ship, I'm sure. I would love to see that fort get some changes or something, maybe continue to grow, or some sort of aspect where it changes a little bit each season. But I imagine any hand-to-hand aspect is going to be similar to what you have here. You load in, and I think it's a 20-player limit in this server, and you would have people that would load in and they'd be able to do hand-to-hand or whatever. I know a lot of people are hoping that there will be a hand-to-hand section of any plunder, like when we're in here, we'll be able to come in here and actually board and the island and do some fighting. That would be pretty cool. Well, if you're doing a lot of damage, or if you're in a ship that has a high aggro level, meaning like the frigate part is going to have a high level of it aggroing towards you. But it seems like the more damage you do to the fort, the more it's going to actually aim at you. So let's get a couple shots on the board here. Yeah, pretty much. That's been a kind of an ongoing theme, honestly, in this game. Is the better you're doing at your grind, if you're getting a lot of stuff and you got a lot of resources and you're able to get a lot of grind hours in, it seems to me that your drop rate goes down by your RNG goes down quite a bit in the game. At least it's what it seemed to me like last year. I kind of pulled off because I got where I wasn't dropping anything. I couldn't even get furnitures or cosmetics or anything. May as well forget trying to drop a weapon. And it was very frustrating to me. That's why I'm glad to see that they're playing with this battle pass thing, so you could just earn it that way, grind it out, and actually just buy it with the points. That to me is the best way to do the game, because that broken RNG, you end up putting in 100 hours into the game every week, and the guy jumps in and plays 2 and gets everything dropped immediately. And I actually had pulled off and would just come in once in a great while when there's a new event to grind something. And after like the second or third time I would run the event, because I wasn't really racking any extra hours into the game, my RNG went up. So that's one thing that I think that they've done, is keep the grinders grinding, pay the other people out, so hopefully they'll come back. It seems to be the mentality of what the developers were doing last year, but now we're kind of seeing where people have been complaining about it in the update cards that they send us, asking for suggestions and stuff. And a lot of people have mentioned this battle pass. I know I've been wanting one since like season 1 of year 1. Oh, I can show you where you can make those, man. We don't get sunk here. Right here, you can make any of those that you want. Like right now, I'm making Ills Twine. I think I've got working mechanisms over here. You can do Gannet Saltpeter. You can do purified saltpeter and things like that at some of those locations. So that would be my suggestion. You can't buy a lot of them from Rema anymore, but you can convert your 8s over to them still. Going through there, they make, I think it's like 1.8 to 2.2, depending on what material and what area you're doing. And then, of course, what your upgrades on your helm are is what you're going to be able to produce. That looked like money floating around, didn't it? Now, as far as sinking this Commodore here, Gill Heat or Gill Hole, whatever the name is, it's a waste of cannons after you sink active. You're just wasting your cannonballs. I wish that they would focus more on the fort, but never fails right when you go to take aim and you fire, you bump into a frigate. Packed in here tight. And that's another thing. So this is one of the things that I've heard every excuse under the sun. I used to use strictly demi cannons on ship-to-ship combat. Obviously against forts it's a little different, but we end up with a lot of things where people are like, oh man, you got to get too close with those demi cannons. You just got to get too close. You'll be in combat and you'll never fail. Everyone that's got the long guns that say that, they're all like right, deck to deck with the ship that you're shooting at, trying to get a shot in there with your demi cannons. That's one of the things I definitely like about these new dragon cannons, the demi cannon here that you get from the past. That's what I've just been spending my points on here this season, is just getting the heck out of those. I don't know how long they'll be in the game. They might get nerfed again. I don't know. They've nerfed them once already, but they might get nerfed again. But even then, they're still a good weapon, I think. I think the fort furnitures are broke again, because these things used to put out 400,000 or 500,000 damage whenever you'd hit with the mortar in a weak spot. And even if you didn't hit a weak spot, they would put out like 198,000. I got to turn around here. So what I'm doing, you see me going back and forth. I'm actually trying to get the boat to lean to the right so that get a little more rise out of them weapons. But every time I cut over, it lean back the opposite direction. It's very frustrating. I think he's going to hit there. Yeah, it did hit. And miss. Catch the right wave here, we can get a little elevation. There you go. Now, I've been kind of looking to see what kind of MMOs they've got coming out also for the rest of the year, because I feel like we're going to have, trickle releases some stuff here the rest of this year here is what it feels to be like, which, like I say, isn't anything new. And usually what I do is I'll just find something else to, when I get caught up with the grind, I can always play something else. But man, I tell you what, it's kind of dry out there for anything being released for consoles. They got quite a few things that they've had planned for PCs, but I mean, even some of that stuff, I'd consider maybe getting into the gaming computer stuff again and all. But a lot of these things that I had looked at, they are not. Man, I'd get hammered by this ship. They've not actually made their release dates. So like one of them was Terminator Survivor. It was supposed to be one of those deals where PC was going to test early spring, and then it should be here by fall on console. Well, it ended up, I've not heard anything about it. I looked today, nothing about it on Steam. There's no release date information, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. But I guess it's just been canceled, I guess. I don't know. That thing was released, or was announced actually close to 7 years ago, so. Yeah, I used to just order them. You can, and then you got to upgrade, update. And that's why I went to console, because consoles typically, they call it 10-year. You're good for about 7 typically before they come out with a new one. And I've never been really a console snob. I'll usually Xbox and PlayStation. I'm going to admit, unless Xbox gets its act together and allows direct streaming or works out a deal for direct streaming to YouTube, I'll probably end up just going PlayStation in the future. But that's kind of where I'm at, especially now that games are cross-platform, and a lot of the games that they're making for PlayStation going to Xbox and Xbox coming to PlayStation, etc. So, but it sounds like Xbox is actually looking at more having a Steam Deck type of a system for their next one. You'll be able to play Steam and stuff. So I don't know. I might look at that. Just have to kind of wait and see what they give us there. I have a weak spot here on the side of this thing now. I think we just missed it. Yep. Oh, no, don't sink. Once you get fort fire on you, you better be moving. And I was not moving anywhere fast enough for that. I'd say Buccaneer's Oath with that, where we could actually heal this severe damage, that would be awesome. So I'm definitely going to be playing around with a lot of armor ascensions and stuff, so definitely be watching for videos like that in the future. But been kind of playing Call of the Wild the Hunter. It's an older game on PlayStation, but I've been enjoying it. It's just kind of relaxed, go play around and stuff. I just can't do those real fast first-person shooters, man, like Call of Duty and all that mess anymore. Got too old for it. As fun as they look like they've really come up with some really cool maps for this stuff, but also the difficulty of that went up whenever they started crossing PlayStation, Xbox, and PCs on those types of games. And one thing that if you've ever played on a computer, you know that you're not going to outdraw somebody using the mouse on the aiming system. It just doesn't happen. Anywhere you turn, you got the wind in your face. Come on, man. I do like the aspect of how the wind and owl will give you a boost if you hit it just right, but it's not as often as you would like. And also, I mean, the wind's always there, and it's always going to be in your face in this game. African map. Yeah, I used to stick over there, but I don't know. A lot of stuff I like to grind has been over on the other side here lately, and I don't know. I'm kind of torn on which way to go with my account when the DMC and Campani opens up, because I mean I just don't care much for the French side of the game. I'll probably end up going DMC just because I just don't really see much, unless they just got a really good furniture over there. I have been getting a little more into running these torpedoes here lately. Heal over here. I want to get away from this guy. So if you travel up next to frigates a lot of times too, remember if they're traveling at half sail, they're pulling in a hard aggro on them, and that'll get you sunk if you're too close. full-blown Admiral Nelson. I'm not familiar with that term. Is that an actual captain or what? Come on, walls go down. I get turned in that wind again. Jeez, there we go. Oh, so you're talking actual historical figure. Well, there you go. I caught that freaking crossfire. Now, in the past, you used to get stuck at this cutscene. At least I did. But I think they've actually made it so it stops shooting during the cutscene now, which is great. All right. Well, that would be cool. All right. Make sure I'm actually getting stuff okay. Yes, it's still coming in. We're getting there. Yeah, so one thing I do is when I run those helm ships, I was showing you all that contract earlier that you can pick up to drop off some Gold Skull products. Every ship you destroy is going to have a silver chest on it. And what I've been doing is just stacking those silver boxes for next time to have a silver event and just run it that way. If you start to run out of room, you can, run those things or open them up. But I've not seen much of a need to open it up. I popped a bunch of them open the other day, but like I said, it doesn't take long to run this stuff out. You get 2 or 3 guys grinding on that thing, go over there to Africa, over at the Mother Shipwrecks, and they just spawn like crazy over there. You're able to get quite a bit of silver, and your helm materials usually add up pretty quick as well. You're talking several thousands in just a few minutes versus having to run 4 or 5 forts every hour, and you can maybe get 1,500 to sometimes around 2,000 or something like that. But it's still it's something you can add to your grind or whatever. But that's what we're looking at. Well, we're going to be in the leaving the call to arms for a little bit. But it looked to me, now there may be a section over at to lock Panjara as well, but looked to me from some of the screenshots we've seen and things like that over on the deck at the time that we were looking at a location over, get up here, over here where we would be signing up for either the Campaign Royale or the DMC. As you can see, you've already got the flag set up over here. Looks like we got some sort of a spring loader over here as well. I don't know if that's a repeat of something or if it's something new, not sure. Yeah, hopefully they'll have it where we can set that stuff up. I don't know. Like I say, it's pretty cool the way you see like the Hubok twins and stuff like that work. They have the outburst perk, and it shoots the top deck weapons, but they're also able to shoot torpedoes. So how are they using top deck weapons and torpedoes? I'm not really sure exactly, unless they got them, mid deck and stuff like that. So, but that's what they're using, this frigate. So hopefully we'll see something where we can maybe faction specific on that kind of stuff. I don't know. Yeah, or maybe put it into seasonal journey where we can unlock it in there would be cool. I don't know that they ever will, but it would be nice to be able to do that. If the enemy ships are allowed to have mixed weapons, top deck and mid deck, I would think that they would eventually make it so we could too. So we got our 5,000 guild mark, so I don't really see grinding that out right now anymore. I'm not going to bother picking up one LeFleur. I mean, you're looking at 2,400 for a couple of freaking plague dust. I'll just be running. So there is also a way that you can run LePest now, whether you're tier 1 or tier 2, it doesn't matter. Just go into your journal and start running your world missions, and what you're going to have to do is look to see which of those events is up first. And it doesn't, did we finally get a normal map? Yeah, we have. Okay. Well, it's not showing me that there's any. That's odd. Typically, you can see which of the main pirate lords is up, and you'll just have to farm them out. If it's Lee, take it out. Take out Vikram. Take out the Hubok twins, and then you'll eventually get your LePest to come back around. You just got to continue to grind that circle out. Hi guys, we'll hop off here and give me something for lunch. Appreciate everyone who stopped in for the stream. As soon as I get some information on any new roadmap stuff, I'll be sure to bring it out for everybody. But it's just one of those things where you just got to kind of keep your fingers crossed and hope that when they get it released, it's going to be a complete package where it's not going to be a big mess up of more glitches and stuff. So it sounds like they're doing a pretty good job of getting that leveled out. From some of the testers I've been hearing about different stages of it, so I don't know exactly which stage we'll see first. My guess is the basic faction war package is going to come where we'll pick one side or the other, and then we can actually have, just like we do over here when we're running Helm, you would have certain territories that would come up, and you just battle them out. And it sounds like most of it is going to be played against your PvE scenarios, player versus the environment. But they're going to have some things for people to be able to do. So for sure, there's going to be a 1 versus 1 PvP type convoy in here as well. So be kind of curious to see what type of things are in those events as well, because there may be specific things locked behind that. Oh, it's time to buy our dragon cannon here real quick, and then I'll hop out of here. Alrighty. Hope y'all have a wonderful weekend.